Well, well, well. This is a long time coming. A few years ago, I didn't even see how old the video was. I did intend to do a retrospective many, many moons ago for Supernatural, before I even did the Smallville one, I think. I was gonna do it. I was gonna get it done. I did the first episode and then went, that's enough. I never went back to it. And now it's been too long for me to continue from that point, so I gotta start over again. Luckily, unlike Smallville, I only did one episode. So I don't have to redo as much as I did with that. And yeah, also unlike Supernatural, even though there is a rewatch podcast, or unlike Smallville, there is a rewatch. Even though there is a rewatch podcast for this, I would not be having to limit myself to having to follow that. So there's no, I don't have to keep an eye on it. There is a rewatch podcast. They're probably far past this by now. So yeah, but yes, Supernatural Retrospective. If I could just explain why I finally decided to do this. Well, I was looking at what I have for ice cream. For retrospectives, we have Smallville, Doctor Who, Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell is, with all due respect, on the back burner for now. Yeah. It was something I thought I could do. Half-hour shows are easy to do if I'm doing a certain amount, like when I did the TV episodes for Halloween Horror Month and the Road to Halloween Horror Month. Those are half hour to an hour, easy to do. Hour ones are a little bit more easier. I can binge those better. I think because I have an hour or 45 minutes without commercials to kind of just watch it and do something. Where that one, you got half hour, 22 minutes, and you half hour or 22 minutes, and it's not that. You don't have to do stuff. You're just watching it, and then you do the review, and then you gotta do another one, and. So yeah, Supernatural. And another big reason why I don't know why I just did it. Why I'm doing this is I thought about it, and I didn't want to think about it. But this year is the 20th anniversary of Supernatural. 20 years ago, some point in October. Yeah. The more I thought about it, though, especially with the opening, I should have on November 2nd, because that canonically is when this all started in series. But November 2nd, 1983. Which doesn't match up with the math, right? Because in 1983, later in the episode, he says, he says he was 3. That's right. I thought I said he was 2. He's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because when this started in 1982, I was 3. Yeah. Yes. And so it follows 2 brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester. And it played by... this is one of those cases where it's like, let's just hire people who are familiar with the network anyway. You had Jensen Ackles, who plays Dean, who was already on the channel as Jason Teague on Smallville. And I always, when I first saw him, I'm like, oh, Jason's arc is just kind of, they just say, oh, he died because they couldn't bring him back because they hired him for Supernatural. So, yeah, and then Jared Padalecki had been on Gilmore Girls as the character Dean. Yeah, that's a little ironic. But now he used to play Sammy. Yeah, so, yeah, and the start of their series, the journey is to find a dad who has gone missing or is out there somewhere. They have to find him, and there's also a mystery with a yellow-eyed demon who had killed their mother when they were kids, and later someone else, which we'll get to at the end of this episode. And I've always thought they should have waited on that, but I understand they needed a reason for Sam to be out there. I don't know, his dad wasn't enough, right? Anyway, so let's begin. Again. No more Michael Finnegan begin again. Okay, so we start. Why do I feel like I'm at an angle here? I'm not. I'm looking straight on, and it's not. So we start, like I said, November 2nd, 1983. Little SNL reference. That was 93. 1983. Lawrence, Kansas. And, hey, here's a lesson in how to make your actors younger. Just take Jeffrey Dean Morgan, comb his hair down, and have him shave. Oh, it's the painting people. What are they doing? You already did my win yesterday. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, you just have Jeffrey Dean Morgan comb his hair down and shave his beard off. Boom! 22 years earlier. 22 years... Oh, 22 years younger. That's what he looks like. I don't know about you, but if I was to shave my beard, and put on a hairpiece, I wouldn't look no 22 years younger. But what are you gonna do? See, it works with the actress who plays the mom because she's not in the rest of the show. She's presented as a ghost as she is, so it makes sense. But they just, I don't know. Also, there is some inconsistencies that they don't follow up with later. Like when you get to season 13 and the character's brought back and he's supposed to be from a younger point in the timeline, but he's got gray hair and a gray beard. Go away! Oy. So, I'm assuming, I've always assumed this is right after they brought Sam home from the hospital. I'm assuming he's a little baby. You got little 4-year-old Dean there, right? And they're all happy. And they do something that only happens in TV shows and movies, but can never happen in real life. They just put the baby in the crib, still awake, and expect it to fall asleep. And night, Sam, and they turn the light off, and I'm just like, no, that's never how you put a baby to sleep. They have to be already asleep when you put them in the crib. I know this as a father. I'm sorry, I know this as a father. You cannot put the baby in the crib and they're still awake. They'll just cry. I tried. It doesn't work. But in movies, they just lay there. Movies and TV shows, they just lay there, and it makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. None. Okay, now it's... My head's getting cut off. Whatever. So, a little while later, everyone's up to bed. She wakes up, she goes to check on the baby, and somebody is in there. She thinks it's her husband. She thinks it's John. John Winchester, Mary Winchester, by the way, are their names. She thinks it's John. She even goes, John. And the guy in there goes, shh. The subtitles are even trying to fool you. I have to watch that with subtitles. It says, John, colon, shh. Come on, subtitles. Don't lie to the deaf people. No. And then she goes downstairs to find that John is actually sleeping in the chair. And she runs back upstairs. She screams, which wakes John. And then he goes running up the stairs. This kind of irked me this time watching. He goes in. He heard his wife scream. He goes in. He's like, Mary? He looks, sees nothing. And he's like, Goes over, looks at Sam, who is still awake, by the way. And, yeah. By the way, I want to point out that he is completely clean. That is for reference to later. I don't think it's in this season, but probably next season when they reveal something. We'll get there. Anyway. So, I know this is Ichi. So then blood starts dripping from the ceiling onto the baby's bed. He looks up and he sees Mary attached to the ceiling, and it starts on fire. We get that. He freaks out, and we get a classic line when Dean, who is now somehow awake, runs in. Okay, Dean, get your brother out of here as fast as you can. Now, Dean, go! And he runs off. And it looks like that John dies here with an explosion of fire. But no, he comes running out and tackles them, and it looks as if he vows revenge. 22 years later, Sammy is now in college with his girlfriend Jessica. And the guy from who did the voice of Gerald on Hey Arnold, and would later go on to be in Stargate Universe. But here he's dressed like a zombie because it's Halloween. Another reason why I did it now. Halloween, 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 Halloween. Halloween. It's Halloween. Yes. And Sam is ready to go to law school. One thing I didn't get when I watched it, I'm like, shouldn't he, if he's going, I'm like, well, maybe I'll be able to get into like law school. I'm like, but you're already in college. Some of those things is confusing to me, where it's like, you gotta go to regular college, and you, like, to be a doctor, you gotta go 4 years of regular college, and then 4 years of medical college. Huh? What? 8 years of college just to be a doctor, and I want to be a lawyer. Okay. I don't know. I just don't know. Hello. There it is. Stay. So yeah, we get with me here, like, well, your family, his friend who never shows up again. I was hoping he would come back at some point, but he's only here and never mentioned again after this episode. But anyway, he's like, come on, your family must be happy for you. No, we're not exactly the... I don't remember the... what he said. We're not exactly the... whatever the white family... Damn it, stop! Well, and I'm not exactly the Hustables. More shots. And they're like, no. And it just cuts away to their house, and they're sleeping, right? Sam hears a noise and goes to investigate. Not investigate, investigate. And he finds Dean, who has broken into the house for some reason. His reasoning is, if I call, would you have picked up? Even if he didn't call, it would go to voicemail and you can leave a message. And he would listen to the message. But if you left a message, to me, even if I'm not talking to you, right? Let's say I'm not talking to someone. They call me, I don't pick up, they leave a message. I'm still going to listen to the message, because if they left a message, it must be important. Especially if we're not talking to each other. Calling me at all if something's going on, if we're not talking, you know what I mean? I don't know. I do like the line here where he's like, what are you doing here? Well, I was looking for a beer. He's like, let's call back to later, but yeah, he says, Dad's been gone. Dad hasn't been home for a few days. And he's like, well, maybe he's just got drunk, Dad's been on a hunting trip. has been home in a few days. Which is an iconic line to the show. And now he's like, first he's like, you could say anything that you want in front of Jessica, because, spoiler alert, he was going to propose to her, we find out later. But now with this thing, he's like, you know what, why don't we go talk? So he went on a hunting trip. Nothing is really much explained. It's explained later. Like, they were... After Mary's death, John decided he wanted to find the thing that killed his wife. So he became a hunter, and he trained his boys to hunt, and yeah. Dean wasn't with John because Dean was doing his own hunt. It's like, Dad let you go hunting on your own. Dad let you go on a hunting trip on your own? I'm 26, dude. In all actuality, Jensen Ackles was 27. So, yeah, he was actually even playing even younger. He was playing a college student in Smallville. He's playing at least 20. At least. Which doesn't make sense because Lana was only 17. We're not going to go there, though. Okay? But, so they find, after listening to... So here's a little gripe. It's not explained why he wants Sam to go with him, because he's like, oh, play this. I got this message. And he's like, you know there's EVP on that. You're smart. And he goes, well, I did this, and this is what I got back. I'm like, if you're already doing this, why do you need Sam? Like, he's only doing it because he wants Sam to go with him. So they decide to go together to Jericho, California. I don't know if that's a real place, but sure. Which is ironic that they're in the same, like, vicinity, because he's at Stanford, which is in California. So, yeah. So, yeah, they go back to Stanford in episode Skin. And that guy from the beginning of this doesn't come back. Anyway, so now we get what would traditionally be the opening of the episode. Usually an episode like this opens with a victim getting grabbed by what will be the monster of the week. Traditionally. Because it's the pilot episode, we don't do that. We had to tell the story of the Winchesters, and now we get the opening. We see this guy, don't know his fucking name, but we see him on the road. He's talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and like, hey, baby, how you doing? And I can't come over tonight. No, I can't come over. No, I can't. Sorry. And he sees this hot chick on the side road, and he goes, hey, man, I gotta call you back. And immediately picks up this strange woman, who is Sarah Shahi, by the way. I've seen her in many things. Psych. I think she was in that Necessary Roughness, or no. She was in some kind of sports legal thing show on the USA. I don't remember what it was called. Was it Necessary Roughness, or was that a different... I don't know. She was in stuff. She was in the Black Adam movie. She was a character whose name you cannot say because it is associated with the terrorist organization. Starts with I. Anyway. So, she's like, will you take me home? He's like, fine. And he's driving her, and he's like, checking her out the whole time, looking at her. He's like, will you, she's like, I need to go home or something like that. He's like, looking at her. They got her set up where, like that, but like more attractive, not like mine, you know, and no hair. And he's just like, she's like, you going home with me? He's like, hell yeah, and like drives her there. So the whole setup of this creature, we find out, Woman in White, is that they are spirits of women who were cheated on, had a mental breakdown, and I don't know if they always kill their kids or if they just kill themselves. unalive themselves. I'm not monetized. I don't care. And then go after any man who cheats. Always a man, though, because all the victims are men. Question, especially for 2025. What if the woman in question that dies was cheated on by a woman or is bisexual? Right? What if it's a lesbian that does this and cheated on by a woman? You gotta ask these questions. Who knows? But she takes this guy to her house. He doesn't believe it's her house, and then she kills him on the bridge as he tries to leave. Now, am I the one to point out he never actually cheated? And that's a bit of an issue. You can imply he was on his way to cheat, which is why he wouldn't go see Amy. But we never see the guy cheat. It's only implied. So, Sam and Dean are on their way to Jericho, but they're at a gas station first. And here's where we get some more iconic lines. Sam is complaining about the cassette tape collection. Well, their cassette tapes in 2005. I don't think CD players were as big as you think they were back then. You know, there was some had them, but like they weren't huge. You know, and there is an issue here. I think I put this up in my original review. He is naming off the tapes that he has. He goes, first of all, they're cassette tapes. Second of all, Motorhead, Black Sabbath, Metallica. This is the best of mullet rock. And he says Metallica where he's holding it. He takes the tape out of his hand, takes it out of the case, puts it in. He said Metallica. It starts to play Back in Black by AC/DC. We do get the iconic line, driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole. Iconic line. But why does this AC/DC play here? When that's not one of the names that he brought up. It's a little bit confusing. Anyway, so they arrive at the crime scene that is reinvestigating now at daytime. Cops are slow and stuff. I understand they had to find it and then you got to report. Like, okay. So through this whole thing, they say he's missing. They don't find blood all over the car or nothing. Just he's missing. But here's the thing. You have to be missing for at least 24 hours for them to even consider trying to look for your ass. So the fact that Amy's got missing posters and they're investigating his car now, not even 24 hours, is a little bit quick. They pretend to be federal marshals, and I will say that as the show goes on, they do get better at dressing for the part, but they're just wearing regular clothes. They're like, well, you're a little young for a marshal. You're too kind. And they get the information they need. Dean starts to question the police work they're putting in, which I do have to agree that especially in TV shows and movies, cops always do what seems to be the bare minimum work, where it's like, oh, we found you standing near where someone died. You did it. But what about, no, you did it. Don't care about it. Evidence? Who cares? You did it. You know? And that comes into play later, too, when it comes to this certain thing. There is evidence. But if they really think about it, it makes no sense. They didn't even call them out. And they're like, oh, well, this, and this. We'll get to it. So, we do get that Dean and John are running credit card fraud. Yeah, Berta Framian and his son Hector. I'll give you, Jeffrey De Morgan looks more Hispanic than Jensen Ackles, but neither of them are. They could come up with a more American name. Framian sounds more Middle Eastern than Spanish, but I don't know, maybe it is Spanish, I don't know. Anyway, so they go into town and they interview Amy, who's with some friend of hers. I do like her friend's response to when they start talking to her, and her friend's like, "Are you okay?" Like, it's okay. They go to talk to her, and they bring up what everyone gets wrong, right? Like she's got the pentagram, and they're like, oh, they think it's like yours. They think that anyone has a pentagram worships the devil, but actually, it's protection from the devil, which is absolutely true. It's actually called the devil's trap, and it traps demons, according to this mythology, which is the mythology I like to follow, which is why I watch other movies and I'm like, no, that's not how it works. This show is a definitive mythology for these creatures, you know. Just saying, it was around for 15 years. It wasn't around for 15 years for no reason. That'd be some kind of, not realism, but like, I don't know. I would just say, you think other shows and movies would adapt this kind of mythology to make it work? Where we're going to create our own mythology, you know, or have vampires that can just walk in the daylight, zombies 4. And don't suck blood because Disney movie. Anyway. So they talk to Amy and his name Troy? I don't know. After this they go to check into a hotel and find out that their dad has already stayed there, and this, I don't know, this had me like, this said red flag. Okay. So they check into the room that their dad was in, and they go in, and there's all of the victims' pictures on the wall. Stuff, the stuff was trashed. He's got salt in a ring around a table. I'm just like, so I understand they have to find stuff that he left, right? They have to find the stuff that he left so that they can do their research. The research is basically done. They have to, you know, he basically has done all the research, and he leaves it for them to find so that he can continue. They can continue the job, right? The hunt, so to speak. But this is not how hunters work. You go in, you clean everything up, you make sure there's no trace. Because this just doesn't make any sense. He's got a half-eaten hamburger, which would have his DNA on it. Right? They can swab that hamburger, get his saliva from it. Boom, you're tracking down John Winchester right now because he left pictures of victims on the wall. And now we have another victim, and he's gone in the wind. Huh? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No, this doesn't make any sense other than they're supposed to find it. Oh wait, this hasn't happened yet. That's right. That's right. They do go to investigate. Afterwards, they go to the bridge. And Constance somehow possesses the car. There's no explanation why. She just does and tries to run them down because they're getting too close. So, yeah. They jump over the bridge and, Sam clings to the side. Sam cleans to the side, and Dean ends up in the water. I do like to, Dean! He's just like, what? And then they get up there, they get the car back, it's fine. Then they check into the motel. So Dean gets cleaned up. We do get the other line. Dean, what I said about, because I had an argument about what happened with mom and everything. And like, he's like, what I said about dad and mom, hey, no chick flip moments. Alright, jerk, bitch. Right. So he gets all cleaned up and he's gonna go get food or something, and he gets caught. He tells Sam, he's caught by the cops, and tells Sam to leave. So Sam ends up leaving and goes to find the husband. Bo Welch, I'm sure that's not his name, Mr. Welch. We'll call him Mr. Welch. And he says that he talked to another guy, so he talked to John. So John went to talk to him. So I got a problem here. They go to talk to him, or Sam goes to talk to him. Was like, did you tell him where you were buried? He's like, really got to go over this again? So he told John where Constance was buried. Why didn't John write down somewhere in the hotel room? It said, woman in white, buried behind house. One thing I think of is that Sam needs to leave the hotel room separate from Dean. Whatever. He basically confronts this dude over cheating on her, which he doesn't admit to, but later, when he calls Dean, he's like, well, he did cheat on her. But he never admits that, though. I guess from the emotions he throws out. I don't know. Anyway, Dean is being interrogated by dumbass police because they found this stuff in the hotel room. And I say dumbass because they're like the rest of the police in movies and TV. They see this stuff and they go, okay, they did it. Dean rightly calls him out and goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. When the first disappearance happened, in 82, I was 3. Oh, there was an older guy. He could have done it. Sure. But, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. It just always frustrated me that they have to be. I was fine, and then, damn it. No. I really just used my. I feel like it falls in the middle of recording. It moves. There. What was I? So now, leaps in logic that don't make sense. This has to happen so that the climax of the episode happens. And none of this makes any sense. Okay? So, first of all, Sam calls in a false report of gunshots. Somehow knowing Dean can get out of the handcuffs. But then Sam doesn't go to grab Dean after he escapes. He's on his way to the Welch house. What? So he causes the diversion so Dean can escape, but he's not going to go and pick his ass up. He's going to the Welch house to finish this. Dean has realized that because the dad left his journal behind and coordinates that he's moved on. Right? So, but Sam is also now confused. So, then, here's the leap in logic. Constance pops up in the car saying, take me home. And he's like, no. But then she takes control of the car and drives him to her house. She then tries to seduce. He's like, you can't kill me. I'm not a cheater. I never have been. It's just like, you will. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Like I said, I assumed that the dude at the beginning had already cheated on Amy, and that's why she was after him. She only goes after Sam so that we can have the climax. He was already heading to the fucking house. Why do we need to speed up the process? What's more confusing is somehow Dean has teleported all the way from the police department to the premises of the Welch household and starts shooting up the ghost. Which bullets wouldn't work, but rock salt would. But it's a regular. It's a rifle, not a rifle, revolver. It's a regular handgun, a pistol, right? And Sam realizes from one line of dialogue that she can't go home, so he drives the Impala baby, through the house. Somehow there's not a scratch on her, by the way. And then the ghosts of the kids show up and melt her, for lack of a better term, because she drowned them in water. So, she drowned them in the bathtub. So then they cause her to turn into water, and that's it. I wasn't meant for a first episode. They don't really do anything. Like, she's a ghost. They don't really. I don't know what Sam was planning on doing. Salt and burning the body, I guess, is what you would do. But they don't do it. So it's just like, we don't know what he's going to do because this is the first episode. We don't know. You don't know. You know. You don't. You really don't. But, yeah. I do like how Dean's like, if you got one scratch on my car. I also want to point out earlier, she's got our car. Our car? It's Dean's car. It's baby. So, one thing I haven't mentioned is that Sam had a interview for the law school on Monday, which is why he's got to go back. So now we need a reason for him to continue hunting. So he comes home. I should have mentioned he tried calling Jessica several times before this, and he kept getting the voicemail. But now he shows up. He finds cookies. I don't know how long the cookies have been there or what. He lays on the bed. He gets the drips of blood on his forehead, and then he sees her up against the wall, stomach cut like Mom, and then fire. Dean, who has driven off by this point, is just magic because he's automatically back and in the house. So here's what happens. Dean drops him off. He says, "Call me when you find him." He's like, "Yeah," and takes off. Sam goes inside, finds the cookies, lays down on the bed, starts eating one, gets the drip, fire happens, he starts yelling. Dean is back. This has never made sense to me. Dean would be too far for him to hear the screaming to drive back and run up. The only thing I can think of is that he came back to talk to him to try to get him to come back and heard him scream. We don't get that. Right? I don't know. And while we're on the subject, especially if you're someone who's watched the show, and they go more into the mythology of who the yellow-eyed demon is, why it went after the mom in the first place. Why does it kill Jessica? I get it, he does so admit to it later, that he had to do it for a reason. And if Jessica doesn't die, supposedly, he never takes off with Dean. However, I feel like there is a way he could come back and tell Jessica that they couldn't find him, and that he's conflicted. He wants to go find his dad, but he also has a law school interview. And she goes, "Well, what's more important, this law school thing or your family?" And he decides to go with family and reveal that Dean actually hadn't left yet. "I figured you might change your mind." And then they drive off. And maybe you have him calling Jessica throughout the season. And then, in the season finale, like they find the dad, they deal with the thing. Then he comes home and finds Jessica on the ceiling, burned. It's not over. You know? But, no. Then he'll go full time. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want Adrienne Palicki to be in more than one episode, even though she does show up with the non-speaking role later. But I digress. And then they say we got work to do, and yeah. And the police don't. By the way, just want to point out, every police station is connected, right? Do you think that the police in Stanford, especially since they're in the same state, they're like, "Hey, You look like this Framian guy who was arrested in Jericho. Like, I don't understand how they would still be there with the cops and stuff showing up. I don't know. But yes, first episode done. This was longer than I thought it would be. A lot to talk about, I guess, in the first episode. So, we gotta figure out a rating system, and I was trying to figure out. I can't remember. For Smallville, do we do out of 5 or out of 10? I think it's out of 5, isn't it? So I think it would. Yeah, I think because I know I do something that's out of 5. So I think this is out of 5. So we'll do this pilot episode. I'll give it a. Well, what's the scoring thing gonna be? Is it gonna be brothers? Is it gonna? Are we gonna do like out of 5 brothers, out of 5 Impalas, out of 5 yellow-eyed demons, out of 5 son of a bitch? You know what? We'll do Impalas. So I'll give this a 4 Impalas out of 5. I think this is a decent start. There's some issues. Logically, how did Dean get there? He was all the way at the police station. There's no way. Well, he was close to the police station. He was at a payphone, which kids nowadays are watching this and go, what is he talking to? That's a payphone. See, back in the day, you had to. I've used a payphone before. When my cell phone went out. Anyway, yeah. I think it's a solid start. So, what are your thoughts on this episode? Make a comment, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.